is HB Duran here again at Denver Comic-Con 2016, and today we are highlighting Serenity Forge, a wonderful little studio based out of Boulder, Colorado, and I'm here with the founder, Z. How is your show going so far?
It's been amazing. It's just a blast.
Now you are so worn out, I'm sure. You just got back from E3, and so did you see anything cool there that got you all excited?
I mean, one of the first things I did at E3 is that as soon as the show floor opened on Tuesday, after I finished setting up our booths, I ran to the Zelda booth immediately, tried out the demo 10 minutes after the hall opened, and it was pretty cool. It was pretty cool.
Wasn't that amazing? It had like grass on the floor and everything.
Yeah, I was talking to one of the journalists about this, and also the Nintendo representative as well. I mean, they played something like 3 hours of that demo, which is supposed to be only 1% of the game, and they still haven't found everything that's in the demo yet. So it goes to show how big of a game that is.
Fans are lovingly calling it the Zelda Scrolls. But it looks beautiful, and like they mean that in the most endearing way, but it was just like, wow, we can finally explore Hyrule. And so speaking of creating worlds, you have some beautiful games that are out and also in development. Tell us all about those so we can go check them out.
Yeah, so right now we are showing Foresight of Fantasy here at Denver Comic-Con. It's a game that's coming out in a couple months. We just finished the game, and it'll be released in about 2 to 3 months, depending on how Sony and Microsoft process their console development. But anyway, so this is a puzzle game that's basically has to do with breaking the limits of the screen. So kind of like in Pac-Man, where when you go to the end of a screen, you get to come back the other side. So imagine playing a Mario game where you can do that at any time you want. So when you are stuck in a puzzle, you can just kind of lock the screen and then go through the other side and then come back from the other way. So yeah.
I have good memories of doing that, and my brother and I would just be like, wee, 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 past each side of the screen, and I saw that, and it brought back good memories. So I think a lot of people who played that or are into puzzle games will really enjoy it. I also saw the King's Bird is in development, and the art for that is so beautiful. It's like brings tears to the eye. It's so gorgeous. Tell us about the King's Bird.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great that you brought that up because to be totally honest with you, we haven't done anything for that game since August of last year. And only recently, in the past 2 weeks, we have started development for this game once more. So we just finished writing an outline of the game's story. And basically, it's a momentum-based platformer game inspired by games like Dust Force and Journey, where we aim to empower players through freedom, flight, and flow. And the game features a female protagonist. Her name is Quill, who is trapped in a kingdom ruled by a tyrant. And this tyrant king kind of cages all of his citizens, so there's no way that anyone can escape. Well, Quill finds this power to help her escape the kingdom and goes outside and finds all this beautiful scenery and the freedom and makes all these new friends. And ultimately she decides to come back and tears down this barrier to kind of free the kingdom's citizens. Well, as soon as she does that, she realized that there was a consequence to freedom, and maybe that wasn't necessarily the most straightforward choice. So it's this whole game that has to do with the duality of freedom and chaos and order and tyranny.
I'm really excited for that game, in case you couldn't tell, because I'm like, King's Bird, King's Bird. Yeah, as soon as I saw about that game, I was like, oh my gosh, see, it looks beautiful. So yeah, do you have an estimated date of when that might be available to play? Or is it going to be, like any game, it's like when it's ready and we think it's awesome, it'll be available?
Yeah, I mean, for the game developers out there, I mean, one of the scary things that we did is that it was originally made in GameMaker completely, and we recently made the decision to use Unity instead, so that we can have more cross-platform kind of release. With that said, it means that we're going to have to start all over from scratch once more with the game. So it's probably not going to be released until after summer of next year sometime. That's the easiest I can say it. It could be 2 years, it could be 1 year, but after summer of next year is the closest I can come with.
Serenity Forge, in addition to developing your games, you guys are also a publisher. So in addition to Four-Sided Fantasy, which is one of your publications, what other games can we look for from Serenity Forge?
You know, we just started our publishing branch, so it's only about 2 months old at this point. Yeah, but we have signed on a variety of amazing games, both for PC and console. We have 4 coming up this year, and then some more coming up next year as well. Right now, we are showing off Four-Sided Fantasy, which is kind of our flagship title for our publishing branch. And also, we just made a small kind of announcement for Lifeless Planet for the PlayStation 4 as well that will be coming out soon. You know, some of the other titles, we're not quite there yet in terms of announcement, but you know, keep in touch, and then definitely I'll have some information for you soon.
Will do. We already avoided the NDA snipers for Disney yesterday, so they might still be looking for me. So what kind of games do you like to play that have inspired some of these games that come out of your own company? Now that you have the power to create your own, what kind of games led you to this point?
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to amount of time spent, obviously I have the League of Legends, the Overwatch that I've been recently spending a lot of time with. However, the games that really inspire us when it comes to creating the indie experiences are really like games like Braid, Bastion, Limbo, Dear Esther, Gone Home. I mean, the Papers, Please. There's just a ton of indie games out there that are just such high quality content that you cannot get that kind of experience anywhere else, especially not in the AAA market. I mean, just to talk about Gone Home, for example, for those of you who haven't played that game, is a game about a girl who came back from college to go through her house to find out that her younger sister came out to your family. And kind of the consequences of coming out to that family and the struggles that she went through. And a game like that, I mean, it literally puts me in the shoes of someone like that to face that kind of consequence, right? I mean, for someone like me, there's no way I would ever be able to know what that feels like. However, by playing that game, I understood it. I showed it to my mom, who doesn't even speak English, and she's a Christian, and she played this game and just understood so much more about society as a whole, and became way more open-minded. I learned more from that game than I could ever learn from a gender studies class in college. So just games like that really inspire us to create more meaningful, artistic, valuable experiences in our video game industry.
You were on a panel yesterday about how the evolution of games is moving forward and how to change games. Can you tell us a little bit about that for those who weren't able to attend?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, video games have been changing for a pretty long time. Everyone, or at least 10 years ago, everyone's goal to make video games is to create another fun game or create the next big thing. You hear that a lot, and it's really, it's kind of sad to think about how that could be someone's goal. But at the same time, now you're seeing all these indie game developers or even AAAs, starting their own things in creating more meaningful experiences. Like for example, I recently gave a TED Talk actually about the same kind of topics, about how I was inspired by my near fatal experience when I was younger on how video games could really save our lives. One of the great things about video games is that it brings people together, it helps you with exploration, it gives you meaning in life, like Final Fantasy, where you can go through a greater purpose. And it's just all of these different components can motivate someone to do something great. I mean, I volunteer quite a bit to speak to underprivileged students in middle schools and high schools, especially those students who are dropping out of school, coming back, and really they don't have a lot of experience dealing with social situations and understanding other people. Well, video games have saved a lot of these kids and really kind of put them back on track. I mean, a kid in middle school who hasn't gone to school for 2 years, they may not know how to behave in the classroom, but they know how to play a game of World of Warcraft or how to play a game of League of Legends and communicate with other people, or Minecraft, big one. So, video games really plays a huge role in a lot of the different sectors of our lives that we don't realize. And ultimately, yes, there's violence. Yes, there's a lot of negative things being conveyed with video games. The games are still good. They are great in a lot of different aspects, and we gotta think about it more critically and more mature, from a more mature of a lens in how we can kind of facilitate that value.
Well, one thing that you mentioned during your TED Talk was the fact that some gamers figured out the HIV, was it the genome? What was that? It was, you know about it. I heard about it. It was basically, it was a puzzle that they put out to gamers and said, find out how this fits together and tell us what happened.
Yeah. So the game is developed by the researchers of the University of Washington, and it's a game called Fold It, which is essentially it turns human proteins. So I mean, there's a lot of protein structures. It's very complicated, and what happens is that protein can fold in different kind of ways, and it's a type of folding that a computer is actually unable to decipher very easily. However, it looks very much similar to a puzzle kind of experience. So these researchers turned that experience into a puzzle game. And within only 3 weeks of releasing this game back in 2011, a accurate 3D model of a Mason-Pfizer monkey virus, which is an AIDS-causing virus, was successfully deciphered and produced, which that was a problem that was unable to be solved in the past 15 years of medical research. And it just goes to show how critical video games can be.
Well, what I love about the gaming community, especially with, for example, in the face of tragedy or adversity or anything, gamers are such a passionate group where even though we're separated by a console or a computer screen, we all tend to seem to band together at the drop of a hat. It's almost like the super friends, where it's like, we'll be there when we're needed, and it's a really amazing group. So what has been your favorite part of joining the video game industry as a gamer who was playing for comfort and for hope and transitioning into someone who can now pay that forward? What has been your favorite part of that process?
Oh, my personal favorite part. I mean, I could easily talk about how it is literally video games and being a part of that process that ended up saving my life when I was going through my difficulty when I was younger. However, something that I really do want to bring up is the fact that a couple years ago, Halo had a tournament where it was this flood. The aliens are invading Earth, and for the next 24 hours, every Halo player in the world have to work together to fight off the alien invasion. Well, what happened with an online game like that is that IP addresses get smashed together for lower latency and lower ping when you play with each other. So kids from Israel and Palestine started getting matched together. All these Israeli and Palestinian gamers got matched together and started playing Halo with each other to defeat this common enemy. And what ended up happening in these 24 hours is that all these friendships started getting formed. A marriage even came from it. An Israeli man and a Palestinian woman got married because they met through this Halo game. And I believe a world record organization coined that event as the most peaceful event that the Israeli and Palestinian cultures has ever faced in the history of mankind. And this is a shooting game that is supposed to be very ultra-violent, right? And it is the most peaceful thing. That's something that no other world organizations could ever do. And it goes to show how much power video games can be.
So how did you get into video games? I know you've always loved them and they have a really special place in your heart. So how did you get started? How did you go from I love playing to I want to make them?
So when I was 18 years old, I was diagnosed with a very severe and chronic blood disorder that caused me to essentially I bled whatever I did, and it doesn't matter what I did. And so I was hospitalized for 2 years during that time. I mean, I've always been a gamer, like throughout middle school and high school. My parents were gamers. They got me into video games, and I weighed like 250 pounds. Just imagine this Asian nerd who goes around and just plays video games all day. That's pretty much me. And but during this time period, that was really painful for me. I lost contact with all of my high school friends. My family didn't know what to do to help with the situation because all of us lived with the fear that I could die at any moment. And all I really had at the time was to play video games. So I started playing all sorts of games like Final Fantasy, where I get to be a hero of the world, right? Games like League of Legends, where I get to play and get connected with friends online, or World of Warcraft. And through these games, I met with all these amazing people, these people who they might not even speak English, but they would try to check up with me, making sure that I've been getting my medicine, getting an amount of rest, and I got connected with all sorts of hematologists as well, medical researchers who played with me, that introduced me to doctors who ended up giving me advice that kept me alive. And I mean, looking back at it now, it's like, yeah, of course. I mean, I had to get into video games because it was the only thing that I had. And because of it, I survived. And why not kind of bring more value-driven video games out there into the world? So.
When did you found Serenity Forge?
We started back in 2008. It was kind of back when we were in high school, just got a bunch of kids. But we never really worked on it seriously until we graduated from college. So I guess we were doing more part-time throughout college. And then once we graduated, we realized that it's way more fun than anything we've done before. So let's just do this full-time. So that's, but I would say maybe 2014 is when we started doing this all full-time.
Tell me about the name. What does Serenity Forge mean to you?
Yeah, so that's a pretty funny story behind that. So when we all started working on games in the beginning, you're kind of a game developer yourself as well. You understand the amount of passion that it goes into creating a game. So when we first started, we were all so passionate that we just fought with each other all the time. Like, for example, one of the games, had a text box, and we would argue about what color, what shade of blue the text box had to be in, and we would just scream at each other, no, it has to be cyan, not teal, we just fought all the time. And one day we all sat down and just started talking to each other. Hey, we're here to make games. We're here to make fun, awesome experiences. Why are we sitting here fighting with each other, right? So we all decided to, let's just get together peacefully, and essentially forge Serenity as we keep on going. So that's kind of where that name came from.
I love it. I always thought the name was cool, and I knew there's always a story behind it. So, well, I want to thank you for your time. It has been so cool to talk to you. Where can we find more about you, your social presence? Is there a specific game that you want us to check out right now?
So you can find out more about Serenity Forge at our website, just serenityforge.com. And then for our Twitter as well, at Serenity Forge. You can find out more information about myself or just, shoot me a message, anything like that on Twitter at Jinghua Yang, so at ZhengHuayang, so that's just my full name. The game that we're showing here, Four-Sided Fantasy, you can find on foursidedfantasy.com. And, you can find out everything else pretty much on our website. So.
What advice would you give someone who wants to break into the video game industry? Someone like you who maybe just is passionate about it, but maybe doesn't know how to start. What would you tell them?
I mean, I would say that resource nowadays, information to get out there and do well in the industry is all free. Right? It's all out there. I mean, I started purely out of just as a hobby. I started drawing as a kid, and then eventually I became a music composer as well, just as a hobby, and then started learning how to program, and then just all of these skills transitioned into a video game kind of setting because that's what you do as a gamer designer. So don't be afraid to go out there. Download Unity. Unity is a great piece of software. Download Unity, go to YouTube and just Google or just search Unity beginner tutorial. And you can make your first game in Unity probably within the first 10-20 minutes of using that software. And it's just that easy. So don't be afraid to go out there and seek information and just have a great ambition in what you do.
Well, thank you so much for your time. As always, this is Z from Serenity Forge. Please go check them out. They're a great company from right here in Boulder, Colorado. For VideoGameNewsSource.com, I am HB Duran, and you heard the man. Go make some games.